I just got to rub it in a little bit because Bruce mentioned the weather we've had, right? So we've had some 50, and we've had some rain and sleet and snow and ice, and I'm headed towards 75, sunny, and palm trees after church today. But, enjoy this as it lasts. So today we're looking at the story of Zaccheus as we continue our lessons every child should know. But first up, I got to ask you a question. I don't want you to answer out loud because typically when a preacher asks a question, everyone gives the churchy answer. How many of us pray every day? Oh, yes. You're lying. Because all of us forget sometimes to do what we should do. How many of you study Bible daily? I do. No, we don't. What I want you to do is look at, I got 4 pictures, and I want you in your mind, I want you to think about when you see this scenery, such as what I've got behind me, what do you think? What is your base instinct? Now, with my military and other things, if I walk up and I see someone down the street from me that is, makes my neck tingle or whatever a little bit, if it gives me pause, then I will move away a little bit or whatever. And that's just called self-preservation at times. But there are times that we look and our perspective is wrong on what we see. So, homeless camp, right? What do you think the first time when you see that? I would drive to work every morning on the way to the Army base in Atlanta, and there were homeless camps under the overpasses. And there were times I'd look at it and think, what put you there? What have you done to deserve that? And then after a time, as I thought about it, and the more and more I read James, I started a little more often stopping and passing out sandwiches on my way, and some McDonald's breakfast bags, back when McDonald's was cheap enough you could feed people. What do you think? When you see a scene like this, what do you think? Maybe you see a scene like this. What do you think? Maybe you see this. What do you see first? Do you see the people under, for example, the tattoos and the gang sign? Or do you just see the tattoos and the gang signs? Do you see the person that maybe just lost their job and could not recover from it, so they live under a tarp? Or do you see somebody and say, yeah, you know what you were doing? You used all your money up on drugs and ruined your life, and now you deserve it because, I live in a house because I work hard. No. What do you see? So Jesus is walking along the road one day, and he sees something. Now, not everyone who encounters Jesus clearly had a positive life change. People reacted then like they do now to the name Jesus. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. But today, excuse me, and I have water. I had throat work done this week. The more I talk, the worse it gets. So anyway, we're going to look at Zaccheus. I feel bad for him because how many of you remember VBS in the 80s? Zaccheus was a wee little, poor little fella. He can't help he was height deprived at birth. But now, of course, Zaccheus, that's all we remember, this wee little man, a wee little man was he. But we're going to look at him in a different light today. And we're going to look at his interaction with Jesus and how the people should have viewed that interaction. And we're going to start, Liam's going to read to us, and then we'll move forward.
Verses 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through, and there was a man called by the name of Zaccheus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was rich. Zaccheus was trying to see who Jesus was, and he was unable due to the crowd, because he was short in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up a sycamore tree in order to see him, because because he was about to pass through that way, when Jesus came to the place, he looked up to him and said, "Zaccheus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house." And he hurried and came down and received him joyfully. When the people saw this, they began to complain, saying, "He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner." But Zaccheus stopped and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I am giving to the poor, and if I have extorted anything from anyone, I am giving back 4 times as much." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost."
All began to complain that he's gone to the house of someone who's a sinner. A few weeks ago, I was really, my feelings were hurt pretty bad. It's pretty bad because, see, we went to Imperial Palace, and there a certain brother who I'm not going to name him was sitting there having lunch with his wife, and I said, "Why don't we all eat together?" And he said, "Nah. We beat you here, and we've been eating already." And the reality was, had he been nice enough to join up with his brother in Christ, would it have been a true statement if somebody had looked at the two of us and said, "We're eating with sinners"? Yes or no, Daryl? Oh, yeah. Say it out loud. Yes, because why? Why would that be a true statement? Because we are all sinners. If you can't get that point today, go on home. Because we are all sinners. Now, we are blood-bought, redeemed. I get that. But we are all sinners. And now that I've embarrassed Daryl, I won't pick on him anymore. So let's talk a little bit about Zaccheus first, because you do need to understand why they hated him so much, right? I mean, how many people love IRS? Good, you didn't lie about that one. But, in fact, I got one of those letters from this week saying, "You made a mistake. You only owe us $2,000 more." But, yeah, I love those. But anyway, Zaccheus was a tax collector. But he's a little different than today, because today there's a formula for how much they make us pay. And you pretty well know what it is. You know, if you follow everything right and can do the math, you're still confused, but you know it's pretty much standard. And so Zaccheus, though, he's a lot like we've run into in Haiti. He was told by the Roman government, "You collect this much money. Now, if you can make them give you more, you get a bonus plus your salary." And so tax collectors were extremely corrupt. If you've never been to a place where this is common practice, you really don't understand how it works. So one of the last times we were at Haiti, we had brought a box full of flip-flops and a large box full of sunglasses. And contrary to my request, the people from North Park Church, they left the price tags on everything. And so they looked in there and said, "There's price tags. This is commercial goods." And so this guy calls me into his office, and he said, the tax on this is about, I don't remember the first one, but it's like $3,000. I went, "There's not $3,000 in there if you add up every one of them together." Did I say 3,000? I didn't mean 3,000. I meant 1,000. I'm not paying you $1,000. That's not worth it. And we sat there for what, an hour, Allison, probably 45 minutes to an hour with me at gunpoint, saying, "No, I'm not going to pay you." And they kept saying, "Wait a minute, did I say 1,000? No, I meant 300. Paying you $300. Until we got down to a point where I said, "Just to get out of here, I'll pay you this much." And they said, "Okay, we'll take it." And plus they helped themselves to what was in the boxes too. That's how it works in most of the world. That's how tax works. And that's why they hate him. Now, he's not a collector of the temple tax. He's a collector of Roman taxes. He is the official representing the Roman government in this town. And what is worse is, because of where he is, he's collecting from his own people. He is a Jew collecting from Jews to pay the Roman government. Whenever Rome defeated a country, they were pretty smart. They would allow them to keep local government intact, and they would hire locals to be their officials, and as long as they behaved, they could stay in those positions, and they were well rewarded. But when you see yourself as a defeated people and they put your own people over you and they treat you like a defeated people, resentment grows, right? You don't want them around. So there was a lot of dishonesty. And he would have been despised by his own people because not only was he a tax collector, he was the chief tax collector. So all the other ones worked under him. So he was rich. He was an official. He was a Roman official. And he was corrupt. Makes for a good neighbor. So red flag number one, how do you think he felt walking down the street? Do you think he felt pretty popular? Or do you think maybe he felt a little alone and rejected? Because I don't care how much money you got. If you've got no friends, if you've got nobody that will talk to you, you are bankrupt. You are poor. And Zacchaeus understood that. And again, on top of being alone and rejected, he is rich. Now, being rich is not a crime. Something I aspire to. Never going to happen, but Jesus spoke a lot about being rich, and he warned about the pitfalls if you let money take over your life, and clearly Zacchaeus had. God never condemns wealth in and of itself. He condemns the attitude of the heart people sometimes get when they have wealth. So now, here we are. Imagine your life. You're alone. You are despised, forsaken. No one will speak to you in the city streets. Not much of a world. But that's the world he's in. Now again, he probably gained that wealth stealing from his own people, his own brothers and sisters in God. You know, here's a few things. Money, people say money can buy anything. Well, money can buy medicine, but money can't buy you health. Money can buy you a house, but it'll never create a home. Money can buy a companionship, but it can't buy real friends. Money can buy food, but not an appetite. Money can buy a bed, but it can't bring you sleep. Money can buy the good life, but money can never buy an eternal life. And that's the moment in Zacchaeus' life where he wants more. He wants more than the best food money could buy. He wants more than a house full of servants. He wants hope. Zacchaeus has no hope. And so here he hears the word. And clearly, because of what we read these stories where thousands of people are gathered. Jesus gets out on the other side and thousands of people are waiting. He's feeding thousands of people. And so clearly word was spreading. When Jesus would start to move somewhere, people would run ahead and say, he's coming. And whether you believed him or not, this was worth seeing. And so here, the streets are crammed with people waiting to see him, and Zacchaeus wants to be a part of that. Many came because they were just curious. Many people came for the sideshow. Many people came to see a miracle. But some people, not a lot. Oh. Some people, not a lot, would come to find hope. I hope you're here today. I hope you're here today because you want to better than you were yesterday. I hope that you hope. So Zacchaeus is searching for hope. It says Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was. He wanted a visual. He wanted something that went a little deeper than what he had been experiencing before. He's searching. He knows the route Jesus has to take. And being what kind of man was he? A wee little man. He has to find a tree. And he climbs up in this sycamore tree. And he's waiting. Now, in the south, sycamore trees have giant thorns. I don't know if this one had that. But he's in a sycamore tree. And he's looking for a low-hanging branch so he can see over the heads. And here comes Jesus walking down the road. And he's watching. He's probably hoping he'll stop there and speak so he can hear, as well as just see him come by. Can you imagine your life being you're so wanting hope that you're just looking for a glance a glimpse rather of Jesus. Or maybe you're the woman on the side of the road that needs healing and you just want to brush his clothing as he goes by. I don't know what you're looking for today from Jesus, but the very same things that they were looking for, you can find in Jesus today. Just, I'm giving you the end up front, aren't I? But you can. You can find it. Luke 19, 5 through 7. Now, when Jesus came to the place, he stopped. He looked up and said, Zaccheus, hurry and come down from there, because it is necessary for me to come and stay at your home. So he quickly came down, welcomed him joyfully, and all who saw it began to complain, he's gone to stay with a sinful man. How many things in your life do we place hope in or look for hope? Yet what the thing we're really seeking to is place our hope in something that we need it in. I mean, do you remember the boy or girl you were hoping would notice you in high school? Maybe you placed your hope in your bank account only to find that it never knew you. Maybe some place their hope in fame and fortune. How many kids in middle school play ball and know, their parents know they're going to be the next superstar? And the reality is, 1 in a gazillion chance. Some place their hope in having things, but things break. And then you walk away from those things unfulfilled. Christmas morning, best toy ever, broken by Christmas night. You know? Oh, I've lived that one. Zaccheus placed his hope in a lot of areas before Jesus, but now he's looking towards Jesus as a place to put that hope. And Jesus sees that. Jesus knows that Zaccheus has an empty soul and he needs it. And he must have looked a little ridiculous. Here's this rich grown man sitting up in a tree, a tax collector, but Jesus stops for him because he sees the hope in his eyes, or at least he sees the need in his heart for change. And so Jesus stops. True hope in Jesus delivers beyond all expectations. Let me say that again. True hope in Jesus Christ will deliver beyond all your expectations. You cannot imagine how God can work in your life. I look back in my life now, and I look back at prayers that have gone up, and the answers that have come were nothing I ever imagined, but they were right for us. I really never expected to end up here. I love preaching, but I really expected the rest of my career would be army bases and preaching for little churches that couldn't afford anybody. I really expected about now I'd be retiring from the Army and enjoying life. Instead, I'm sharing God's Word and enjoying life much more. True hope delivers beyond your expectations. And by the way, don't pray for healing. Don't pray for help. Don't pray for things when you have no expectation that God will help you. Why should he? Why would he? So anyway, Jesus comes up the tree. He says, Zaccheus, come down from there. I'm going to your house. Wait a minute. Zaccheus hurries down because Jesus doesn't say, I'm going, as the song says, to your house. Jesus says, I find it necessary. That is the Greek, almost word for word translation. I find it necessary. The way Jesus phrases that in the Greek, it means that this is part of my mission today to go to your home. Side lesson number whatever. It is necessary in your walk with Jesus for you to reach out to other people. It is necessary. And it takes thought. You need to be looking around as you go through life and seeing people that you can I'm not talking about a Bible study necessarily. I'm talking about people you can just reach out and touch and let God work through you. Sometimes all somebody needs is for you to look them and somebody you know, obviously. This is not the time in our world to just walk up and hug strangers. But Somebody you know and you see in their face they need a hug, hug them. Somebody you know could use a helping hand, don't ask, go do it. Just show up. So he says, hurry down. This is part of my mission. This is something I have to do today. So he hurries down and joyfully welcomes Jesus, takes him to his home. Now remember what I said. He's gone to stay with a sinful man. You got to wonder, did Zaccheus hear the people saying this about him? I think so, because I kind of get the idea the crowd was shouting it at this point. I get the idea that those murmurs were not whispers. They didn't care that he heard. They hated him. You know, the crowd should have rejoiced over the fact that here's one of the most hated men in our town, and Jesus is going to go give him a spanking. I don't know what they thought Jesus was going to do, but surely Jesus is not going to sit down and have a meal with this man. That's unthinkable. He must be going to go and straighten him out. But they're not happy. They cannot bring themselves to be happy. Can you look at someone else and you see a blessing in their life and you're feeling left out? Can you still be happy for them? I'm going to give you a hint. Most of us in here are going to die at some point. Right? Some of us may die of some terrible. Can you sit there in the middle of disease and look at someone else and say, I'm so glad you got healed? Maybe because of Bruce's niece, this is on my mind, but maybe you were able to have surgery and your breast cancer is gone. Can you be happy for them? I love Linda. I mean, voice is gone, all that surgery, and she is the happiest, smilingest woman I know. And I love that in her. I love that because that is the face of what we're supposed to do. No matter what your life looks like, reach out to others and help them have a better life. So they should have been happy. So who's your Zaccheus? Who in your life, someone you know well enough that if you invited them into your home, the people of this town would shake their finger at you and say you're bringing in a sinner. Because if you're not making them a part of your day-to-day life, you will never reach them. If you're not reaching them in friendship first, you will never reach them spiritually, I promise you. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So Jesus and most likely the 12, whoever's with him, they go into the home of Zaccheus. And it sounds like my mind just went blank for a second. Okay, verses 8 through 10 happen within the home of Zaccheus, most likely. Let me just put it that way. I couldn't think of how I want to say it. So it sounds as if Jesus is probably teaching as the meal is being prepared. Let's go over to 8 and 9. Well, I'll read it to you. But Zaccheus stood there and said to the Lord, look, I'll give half of my possessions to the poor. And, by the way, if I've extorted or stolen anything from anyone, I'll pay back 4 times as much. Verse 9, today salvation has come to this house because he too is a son of Abraham. Now, Christian dispensation has not happened yet. That's why there's not a baptism scene here or anything. But what he has done is, as a child of Abraham, as a Jew, he has said, I will make restitution for my sins. And Jesus says, that's a clear heart. Not only that, if you think, I'll fix it. So based on this reaction we see from Zaccheus, it would be very easy in my mind to surmise Jesus had sat there and done some teaching, and Zaccheus responds. And he makes that statement. In that time, like if you, again, having traveled, if you go into a village and they decide to prepare a meal, it is not something that happens in 5 minutes. We went to an abandoned orphanage in Haiti because we were kind of having to hide for a day or two. And so when the ladies there decided they were going to cook for us, they came to me because they were told I knew how to butcher. So anyway, I butchered a couple goats and about a half dozen chickens, and then they prepared the meal. It took them hours. That's the way it works in much of the world. And so here, they've got time for Jesus to teach him. So Jesus is teaching maybe on the subject of taking care of the poor and not cheating people, maybe on the fact that we need to be honest, hardworking, whatever. But he says his hope now shows through because he says, Lord, I'll give half of what I have to the poor. Most likely he's saying at this point, the money that I placed my hope in before, I'm placing that hope in you and I will give away the money. The money no longer is important to him. It is the hope found in God that has become important to him. And then, this other astounding offer. In fact, I'll give much more if they think I've stolen from them. 4 times. Now, the chances are really good that Zaccheus has cheated some people. But he's not as crooked probably as others in his profession because he's got a soft enough heart that we see that in him now. But still, he's willing to give away the bulk of his estate to be right with God. What are you willing to give up to be right with God? What have you got going on in your life today that you need to give up to be right with God? We've all got things that we could be giving up so that we can be better with God. But some of us may have something that we absolutely have to get rid of it to be right with God. Something that we know we should not be doing. Or something we know we should be doing. Now here's the good part. Remember when we talked about how important the motivation behind what we do, that's what's important to God? The motivation is what's important to God? Not just we're going to give to get, right? I would happily give the IRS this other $2,000 if I thought they'd give me $10,000 back. Say they made a mistake. I'm pretty sure they're not going to admit they're wrong, even if they are. That money is going to leave my checkbook. Actually, it's going to leave Allison's checkbook this time. And we'll never see it again. And didn't even get to enjoy it. But here, the motivation is, if I do these things for God, he will bless me, not make me rich, not make me healthy. He will bless me with the love of his Son and with the light of heaven. And that's worth it all right there. So, we talked about how important the motivation was. Jesus responds to Zaccheus in verse 9 and says, today salvation has come into this house because he is a son of Abraham. I want you to notice something, and I believe this about the phraseology there, has come into this house is not just Zaccheus. I believe what he's saying is because it has come into this house, now it can spread throughout the house. Because if Zaccheus changes, others, if you make your life right, it will spread to your children, your grandchildren. Just as if the effects of sin, not sin itself, but the effects of sin can be generational, so can the love of God. So can good parenting. Through believing in children, we deal with a lot of people in which sins, behaviors are generational in those families and just seem to get worse. They don't seem to get better. They get worse because the children grow up with beatings in the home, and so they do beatings plus drugs as a way to cope. And their children then deal with poverty, beatings, and drugs because they're trying to cope. See what I'm saying? So the hope Jesus gives Zaccheus motivates him to know there's a new life-changing direction for him. He can change. He can make things better. This hole in his heart has finally been filled. Jesus wants to fill the hole in your heart as well. So let's conclude with another thought. Verse 10. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost. Jesus wants you to be no longer lost. Jesus wants you to be saved. Jesus wants you to be his brother or sister. Jesus wants you in the family. Jesus wants to spend eternity with you. He doesn't want you to be left behind, as that book series goes. He wants you to be with him for all of eternity. And the message of salvation is not just for Zaccheus. it is for you. Come ye, all who labor, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Come all ye who labor, and I will give you rest. Zaccheus, a man with no friends, a man with no hope, a man wandering aimlessly in life. And in him, in Jesus, he finds hope. He finds fulfillment. He finds salvation, and we can all have that as well. The only thing that will fill the hole in your life is Jesus Christ. I can promise you drugs and alcohol cannot do it. I can promise you work will never do it. Jesus can. So it's time to quit trying to fill our hole in our heart with anything except Him. Jesus wants to come to your house today. Jesus wants to bring salvation to your household today. Will you let Him? Will you let Him? If you need something from us today that can help you as you make this walk, please come. While we stand and while we sing.